Hey, what's going on, guys? Indy here with Ultimate Tour Reviews. We're doing some work on the front suspension of the 2000 or first gen Tacoma. So there are 4 pieces here. I'm only replacing 3 as of this moment. I'm not going to be doing the inner tie rods. I don't really have any reason to do that. I inspect them. They look totally fine. It's going to be all the ball joints that are in really bad shape, especially the lower ball joint on the first gen Tacomas, which is a pretty notorious failure point on a lot of these trucks. Now, I will include a link to the kit that I bought. It was pretty cheap. I'm not using this thing for any on-road use. I really don't care about too much, super high-end stuff. And I just need to get this thing, working safely on my farm here. I never exceed about 10 miles an hour anyways, so I'm not super concerned. But the old ball joints were definitely a concern. So I'm going to be doing the inner tie rods. I'm going to be doing the upper ball joints here and then the lower ball joints. Well, let me show what I got here going so far. All right, so this is day 3. I just finished one side. And when I say day 3, I mean coming home from work, working on this thing for a couple of hours here. So yeah, you're going to need, I'm not necessarily going to need a ton of tools here, but it's nice to have a bunch of tools. I definitely recommend a variety of sockets, a grinder. I've been kind of cleaning up the kind of the spot where the ball joints go back into when I get them out. I'm using a significant amount of heat to get these things out. I'm using the new Hercules Ultra Torque, which is an absolute beast. I love this thing. A couple of hammers. I am using a ball joint fork as well, which you're definitely going to need. I've got multiple jacks here. I'm actually using one of the jacks to help me pull these ball joints out. Well, I think this truck actually had some of the work done maybe 10 years ago. I don't think there's necessarily original parts in here, but let me show you guys some of the parts in here. So here's your upper ball joint here. It's pretty simple. All this stuff is actually really straightforward. So you basically got these 4 bolts up here. Your upper ball joint is going to be here. We go around here. There's your lower ball joint. And on the other side here, here's going to be your tie rod end here that I just replaced. Now, all of these are, well, depending on your year of first gen, and when the last time this was done, they're going to probably be significantly stuck on there. So here's what I did, and here's going to be that tie rod end and that lower ball joint. I soaked these in some WD-40 for 3 days. I came out every morning and evening, sprayed on WD-40 on all these. I don't think that really did much, but then I used a lot of heat. I'm talking sitting here for 4 or 5 minutes, heating up the outside of that ball joint. You don't want to heat up the ball joint itself. You want to heat up the seat of the ball joint, and just a ton of hammering. I'm probably going to buy some more tools to help get these ball joints out, especially a ball joint separator. It's really not complicated, especially the lower ball joint, which is a common failure point. You're going to have a bolt here, and there's going to be a bolt just behind it back here. And then, of course, you got your ball joint castle bolt there, which I need to fix this cotter pin here. That thing just fell around a little bit. The kit that I'm going to link, though, it's a solid kit, but it's missing parts. So what I mean by that is that you're going to need these bolts for your lower ball joints here. This one's got pretty chewed up. You're going to need to go to maybe Ace and pick up some new ones. These are slightly longer, but they work just fine. I'm talking about maybe about 1/8 of an inch longer, which is not a big deal. Of course, you want to make sure you get highest quality bolts you can find too. These were about $4 a piece at Ace. Looks like I only need 4, so not a big deal. And then, of course, the cotter pins they give you are a little too big, so you got to kind of split them in half and use one side to go through, then just twist them around so they stay on. So kind of annoying there that it's not all the parts you're going to need there. Yeah, this dust heat shield got kind of chewed up here as I'm smacking these ball joints off. I'm at about 4 hours on this side. I'm expecting it to take at least 2 to 3 hours on the other side. All the bolts come out relatively easy, especially if you have an impact. If you got ratcheting wrenches, which come in hugely handy on this job, definitely recommend get yourself a nice set of ratcheting wrenches for this job. That is a massive plus on this. But let's start working the other side, see how well we can do. And yeah, this is not a fun job at all. I was wanting to film a lot more on this, but everything kind of went wrong. Amazon sent me the wrong struts, the wrong springs here. I was going to do a leveling kit, and this is a 5-lug, so it doesn't have the whole assembly here that you pull out. This spring is actually fixed in there, and you can take the strut out at any time. It's very easy to do. I've got new ones on order for front and rear. They're pretty cheap too. And I'm going to include that in the video a little bit later as well, because those will come in probably about a week from now. But yeah, getting the spring out, getting a leveling kit in here requires you to use a spring compressor, which I don't really want to do that. It'll make the suspension significantly stiffer. I don't think I'm actually going to get much of a lift out of that anyways. So I'm going to try to find something else to do for a leveling kit on here. But let's get to the other side and start working there. All right, guys, it is the next day, so I'll give you guys a quick update on what happened here. So I found a really cool trick how to break free these ball joints relatively easily. I was using a ball joint fork, and that's nice, but it didn't really help me too much. What you got to do, though, is if you got a jack handy, you can take the handle off, which are hollow, and use a little bit of heat on the ball joint itself. Not the ball joint, but the connection spot. And then you can just jam that fork in there as far as you can. Use a hammer, kind of dig it in there. Put that jack handle on there to give yourself more leverage, and I was able to pop those things off in 2 or 3 tries. So that made the passenger side take me about, I think, 25 minutes compared to about 4 hours on this side, with just banging everything, hammering everything, heating up everything. That was a huge pain on this side. Well, I just found I didn't really make 2 mistakes, but I made 1 mistake, and then I kind of tried continuing a mistake that was already going on over here. So let me tell you guys what I did. So this is a pretty easy fix. Luckily, I caught it right away too. I did not know that these are left and right. I just threw them on, and apparently I just put them on the wrong sides here. It is a big deal if you drive it. For me, I only took about 10 feet because I had another issue happen, and I just noticed that, hey, I put them on the wrong side. So I'm going to swap these out today. That should take me no time at all because these things are not going to be seized in there. This is the old one though, and there was an issue when I pulled out the driver's side. Pretty unlikely you might see this, but it happened to me, is that when I pulled out the back bolt, which I'll show you right here, it's kind of hard to see with everything in there, but basically right here is going to be your control arm mount. So that's right here. It's the bolt right here, this one there, and that one is actually stripped on the inside there of the what's that called here? The spindle. That's what it's called, the spindle. That's on the inside of the spindle is stripped. So when I backed up about 10 feet, that bolt just came right out, and it was pretty tight in there when I tightened it, but when it got some force on it, it came right out. And unfortunately, I got a couple options. I got pretty much 3 options here I could do. I could pull the spindle off, and then of course get it rethreaded, which I could do. I could do a helicoil, which is possible, or I could just buy a whole new spindle for $80 and not worry about it. So I opted to go just buy a new spindle. It'll be here tomorrow, and I'll get that swapped out. But at least today, I'm going to swap out the ball joints. I'm going to pull this whole spindle out, not a big deal, and I'll get that swap back in. So this is day 4 now working on this. I'm only working a couple hours a day right now in between work right now, but yeah, anything to do with front suspension, if you've watched any other channels, yeah, it's quite the pain on doing stuff like this. Especially for myself, this is the first time I've ever done any suspension work, and I give myself like a 2 out of 10 mechanical skill here, so that's about it. But anyways, I'll show you guys what this looks like. So this is your upper ball joint here. This is relatively easy going in. It's really hard taking it out. Definitely, and I will recommend definitely have 2 jacks when you do this. You want to have a jack that can lift up the suspension independently of the truck. So I was making some adjustments to how high the truck was, and then I was of course using another jack to jack up the suspension as well too. So you can see here that I made the mistake of putting these in wrong. I need to swap these out because this is going to be the right side here. So you can tell that should be on the right side. This is the OEM one labeled right. So this one should be actually pointing out farther, not in like this. Now, when I did take these control arms out, I made sure to match the threads. So this is just a lock bolt here. This just goes up. So basically, you just want to turn it in this direction, and then this will unscrew in the opposite direction. So I made sure to match those threads, so I don't necessarily need to. Well, I'll probably still need to get an alignment anyways, but I want to make sure I got it as close to the original alignment as possible. This is a farm truck, by the way, so I'm not really too concerned about the alignment at all. I'm probably not going to. I might do it, I might not, depending on how close I can get it to being aligned. But it's overall pretty easy to do. It's just that a lot of the old parts were very, very stuck, and that's going to be your biggest issue there. And, well, at this point, I'm going to pull this stuff off here, wait for new parts to come in tomorrow, and that's all I can do at this point. So I'll update it from there, guys. All right, so about a couple days later now, took a ton of time. I got the all-new shocks on. This is pretty easy to do. These are really simple. The front are just 3 bolts on. You don't need to do anything with the springs on these things. These just pop out totally independent. You can take the tire off, get the front out, no problem. It's super easy to do. The rears, you don't even need to jack up anything. You can just go right under there and pull these off. Super easy to do. You probably won't have this problem with yours. Mine has upgraded springs on it, upgraded leaf springs on the rear. which are probably too big for the truck because it was basically pulling this shock apart. It does bottom out or top out, I guess you could say, in the opposite direction, and I need to figure out some way to fix that. But anyways, the overall job here between doing the ball joints, everything like that with suspension, I did the alignment myself, so it's a farm truck. It's really not that hard to do the alignment. It's pretty easy. Everything's pretty adjustable. It just takes a little bit of time, that's all. And yeah, total nightmare of a project here. It's all back together. It all works, and I did it for pretty cheap doing it myself too. But man, I say this is the one thing I'd almost say, if you've never done suspension work, you can do it, but I almost say I'd almost pay someone to do it because it's just so much, so much time, so much work. A lot can go wrong, and you need a ton of tools to do it. So I'd say all in, I'm probably at 15 hours doing the whole thing. Never doing suspension work ever before in my life. So first time doing it, I redid the entire front suspension other than, upper and lower control arms and the inner tie rods. I only did the outer tie rods. Everything else is pretty solid in there, so that's pretty good. And then, of course, I did all the shocks. And, of course, you can see these are pretty bad because they should be going out. They should not be staying in. So you can tell they're definitely bad there. But I'll put a bunch of links in the description, guys. For all the parts that I used pretty much just all Amazon parts. Remember, I have a 2-wheel drive 4-cylinder, so it's going to be quite a bit different than the V6s with the 4x4. All these parts are pretty much different. You can definitely be guaranteed of that. So this is a little bit more rare to find the 2-wheel drive 4-cylinders because a lot of people just like the V6 4x4s, and so the 2-wheel drives don't really get the same amount of love the 4-wheel drives do. But anyways, I'll put a bunch of more tips in the description. Total nightmare to do this, guys. So I had a bunch of stuff I was filming with this, and I kept messing up stuff here and there, so I didn't want to include the footage of me doing it wrong, of course. And yeah, this was a huge nightmare doing this whole job. Yeah, if you got any questions, guys, I'll answer them gladly in the comments below. No problem doing that. And thanks for watching, guys. This one was the most painful part about this whole Tacoma here, but I'm glad I did it though. Everything was in really bad condition that I replaced, so I'm glad I got everything replaced there. But thanks for watching, guys. Take care.